Welcome to Your Epic Pursuit. I'm Mike Mooney. So glad that you're here with us today. This is a space that I've created where we get to dive into inspiring and real conversations with leaders and great people to explore their journeys of leadership and performance. And as usual, our conversation is going to kind of flow through that epic lens of excellence, presence, intentionality, and curiosity. And the goal, quite simply, is just to give you some new tools, insights, ideas of ways that you can accelerate your own pursuit, whether that's in leadership or in life. So joining us today, I'm really excited. We have Dave Alpern, who is the president of Joe Gibbs Racing, one of the premier teams in NASCAR. And Dave, so glad to have you with us, man. Thank you so much for making time in your busy schedule to spend some time with us.
Hey, Mike, I want to say thank you for thinking of me, for having me. For those listening, Mike and I, at one point we were competitors. We were on competitive teams, but we all, in our sport, it's funny, we all kind of, although we compete on Sundays, it's kind of like maybe playing golf with your buddies. Like during the week, you're friends and you actually want each other to do well for the whole sports. But anyway, admire you a lot, Mike. Proud of you for starting the podcast.
Thank you.
And, glad to be on it.
I appreciate it, man. Again, mutual admiration society here. Your leadership journey is been an incredible one. At Gibbs. I mean, you've been there. Your career started as an unpaid intern, right? And worked your way through every single position over there to where you are today. And we know in racing, man, it is it's a world of uncertainty. I mean, every week there is just something new, whether it's in rules changes, personnel, the competition, whatever it might be. So living in the world of uncertainty, it almost becomes a little natural, maybe in a way. And it's interesting, how we're seeing a lot of uncertainty unfolding at a larger level outside of the sport that we're all living through right now. But I'm curious, from your lens, even like today in today's environment, what do you, as a leader, what are you focusing on? Like how, even for yourself, is it your team? Like how are you keeping yourself focused in all the uncertainty?
The true answer is probably sometimes I'm a cat with a laser pen and it's hard to be focused on the right thing sometimes. But I will tell you, for me, no matter how much things change, and we'll talk a lot today about how much things actually do change. That's the one constant, is that everything's changing. But I think it starts with, for anyone listening, to be a effective leader, you got to start by taking care of yourself. So for me, honestly, for me, it starts similar to the way it has for 30 years. And for each person, it may be different. For me, I start my day with devotions and I read God's word. I start my day with some exercise, kind of taking care of my body. And the idea being, by the time I leave to work, I've filled my tank in a couple of areas that I need for me, and then I think there's also the element of having some balance in your life, and what are the things and the people that are important, and prioritizing them, because there's so much stress with work. We've got to be healthy to do that. So again, for me, no matter how much changes, I think it's this idea of really doing an inventory of what's important to me in my life and making sure I prioritize those amidst the chaos that's going on at work, if that makes sense.
No, it does, because we need that foundation, just as humans, leaders, regardless of employee, frontline, to have that routine in the morning. I mean, there's a reason why, like on the airplanes, right, where they say, in the event of a loss of cabin pressure, an air mask will come down, put yours on first before you try to help someone else.
Good.
Right?
It's a good analogy.
We have to be full, or at least in a position where we can help and not be depleted. Man, I
was going to let me point out also, leadership, as you know, is nothing more than influence. Leadership is influence. It's not title. It's not, leadership is your influence, and that's positive or negative. And so if you're going to be a good leader, I've had students ask me, what are the most important characteristics of a leader? And I think my answer surprises them. My top two would be character and authenticity. And to me, for me to be the type of leader I want and to influence the people in the way that I want to, my character Yeah, again, yeah. So that's super, super, super important. And authenticity. Like, is Dave the same guy to the person at the front desk versus the CEO that he comes into contact with? Yeah. Is he a person that I even want to be like? Because no one's going to follow you if you know, if the character piece isn't there. So all that goes back to, what are you doing to to elevate yourself in those areas so that you can be an effective leader?
Yeah, you know, to me, what you're saying there really ladders in to the intentionality pillar within Epic. Intentionality, like, and my belief in this, man, is that as people, not just leaders, but as people, we create what I call experience wakes. Think of like a boat going through the water, right? We create these wakes with everyone we come in contact with every day through our words or actions. Even starts with our self-talk in the morning, right? Or throughout the day. So if we were more intentional in how we were showing up with our character and our authenticity and being mindful, that we can change the outcomes of experiences, right? That people are having with us and that we're having with them. That's going to create greater loyalty, right? And a better work environment and better results ultimately.
Absolutely. No, that's a good word.
Yeah, man. Well, no, I love that, because I'm a big believer in, you know, start the day, win the day, and, you know, take care of yourself, especially along those lines of what you're feeding your mind and your heart, your spirit, your body. Man, I love it. So thank you for sharing that, for sure. You know, one question I had, though, I wanted to jump into, because you've seen leadership from a variety of places, either being, you know, and I'm wondering, you know, was there a time with the team when you had to make a bold decision that maybe, and I understand, like, with teams, decisions aren't made in silos, right? It's not in the vacuum of this is what we're going to do. But was there a point you had to make, maybe even call the ball, where maybe others were like, man, I don't know that that's the right way to go. Maybe even yourself, you're saying, I don't know this is the right way.
Yeah.
But ultimately, it really delivered a better outcome. Or
I do. I do. And before I say that, one thing you said before made me want to think of this. You said, I've been around a lot of leaders. I want to share, this is important, like, for people listening. There is not one specific leadership profile. Like, I have spent 30 years getting a front row seat to Joe Gibbs, two sports Hall of Fames.
Yeah.
He is what I would call, he is the quintessential alpha leader. Like, when he walks in the room, he's the guy. He doesn't have to try to be. He just is. That's his persona. And it's easy to think that if I'm not like that, I can't be a leader. But I go back to leadership as influence. I would consider myself a reluctant leader. I was put in a position where I actually am very hesitant being that guy. Interestingly, I think that's why Coach and I haven't killed each other, because we are complementary types of leaders. Because if we were both this uber alpha, I think we would have had some issues. But my leadership style is very different. And so I think anyone listening can be a leader. Again, it goes back to character, authenticity, whatever style God gave you. You don't have to be somebody else. You know what I mean? I think it's super important and I'll talk about that in a little bit. But when you talk about a bold decision, like as a company, and again, I had a hand in this, was we as a race team, as you know, you're kind of only as good as your manufacturer. In racing, you either race a Chevy, a Ford, or a Toyota. We've got 3 great manufacturers in our sport. Joe Gibbs Racing had won 3 championships with Chevrolet, with General Motors, actually Pontiac and Chevy, but it was all with General Motors. Hey, I think we were sitting pretty. We were a championship level team. And in 2008, we kind of as a group got together and said, hey, Toyota had just gotten in the sport. There was a different way that they would approach things. They weren't just they weren't just giving marketing dollars. They were racers getting into, and we really felt like, hey, we think this could take us from sort of championship level team to dynasty. I think we need to make a change. And Coach Gibbs has a saying that in the NFL, things changed, the sport changed roughly 30% a year, meaning almost every 3 or 4 years, it's totally different. And if you're not adapting, you're going to lose. And when you got into NASCAR, it's the same way. And you experienced it. There may be one year where it's 10%, but then the next year it's 50%. But the point is, it's always evolving. And as we were looking to the future, hey, we were sitting there as a multi-championship team. We thought we need to make this change. And I can tell you, everyone questioned it. I mean, we almost had a revolt on the shop floor. Our other sponsors were like, what are you doing?
Right.
fans, and there was a very negative sentiment against Toyota to begin with when they got into sport. And it was a radical, hard decision, but we made it because our group got together and we felt like we're going to be fine if we stay where we are. But if we want to move to the next level, the way the sport's going, this was a change. We need to say criticisms, put them off to the side, block it out. What do we think? And we had a very clear mission at Joe Gibbs Racing. Every decision we made was based on this one. We call it our one question. Does this make us go fast? Does this make us go fast? And I ask companies all the time, what's your go fast? What's your simple? And every decision we make here, 30 years, does this make us go fast? Very simple question, because our feeling is, if we lead the most laps and win the most races, everything else takes care of itself. So just focus on going fast. And to us, we all thought this switch to Toyota is going to make us go fast. This is a go fast decision. We need to do it. And I will say, as I look at our 32 years, that was probably one of the boldest, most controversial decisions we ever made, and hands down the single best business decision as a company we ever made. As we look back, it's easy to look at that. But there was a 1-year period where I would go home at night going, what have we, was this stupid? What are we doing? And so all that to say, you've got to be willing to make difficult decisions if they're in line with your mission, and you can't worry about what people think. And that's part of leadership is making these decisions that say, hey, I know the whole story. The people that are criticizing us only know a piece of it. I've got to trust my process that's the right decision. So that was one. When you talk about a bold decision, that's one that comes to mind for us. That was a really big deal.
I love that, because Dave, beyond the mechanical transactional part, right, of making a change like that, which isn't easy anyway. I mean, any team that's gone through a manufacturer change, it usually takes them a couple of years to try to get the footing, understand the systems, get the people working and in sync.
No doubt.
It is a huge undertaking. So it's much easier to say, you know what, we'll stick with what we've got, because having to undo then redo is too much. Yet the other part that comes to my mind that I'm sure wasn't easy as well, beyond the transactional part, but the relational, like you had relationships with people at GM and at that level, and having to have those conversations must have been tough as well, man.
It's very difficult. But I make this analogy all the time. Like when people talk about how hard it is to let somebody go, or to in any business, if you're in a business, I go back to that mission. For us, our mission is go fast. So if we have a person in the building who is a detriment to the mission, it's not fair to everybody else. If you don't want to hurt that person's feelings, let them go. And in this case, it wasn't necessarily that our current partner was doing anything wrong. Great partner, and obviously been great for some other folks. For us, we made the decision that you had icons of the sport like Hendrick, Childress. We were always going to be third with GM, and that's okay. That's not a criticism at all. That's just reality. So we thought we had grown to, hey, if we want to be big boys and we want to compete against them, we would rather be a big fish in a smaller pond. We think the way we're set up, that will serve us better. So we made that bold change. And again, in your business, if you've got a mission and you think it's going to be in line with it, but it's tough. I mean, and we're going to talk in a little bit about you. I mean, you touched on relationship versus transaction. I mean, that's one of my life leadership principles. And Coach says this all the time. This isn't business, it's relationships. Everything we do, we're in whatever your business is, if you're listening, you're in the people business, you're in the relationship business. I don't care if you look at spreadsheets all day. Ultimately, you're in the people business, and we're in the people business. So that's a huge part of it.
Absolutely, man. Let's stick on that for a minute then. I mean, because it makes sense within the context and as a business and the leadership principle that you live into. Was that something that was always your MO as a leader, or because again, you have what an incredible front row seat and experience to be mentored, guided, led by someone like Joe Gibbs? I mean, that's just something like, okay, punch the lottery and God bless.
It's why I wrote a book, because I wanted to write. I honestly can say in 30 years, I think I've spent more time with Coach Gibbs, including his wife, like just if you count how much time he's here and sitting with him on the plane and at the races and stuff. And so I've got a front row seat to greatness in the leadership front. But when you ask about this principle, I want to actually give his son JD, who was my best friend. JD went to be with the Lord in 2019. One thing I learned, and this is, I think, asking a leadership principle, is this idea that JD treated everyone like a soul and not a transaction. And man, if I can give one lesson to leaders, treat people like a soul and not a transaction, period. That is, and that contradicts conventional wisdom. But the idea is, and we all know what it feels like to be treated like a transaction. Listen, you know what it's like on the grid at the race. And my whole career, I'm used to someone coming up to me and they shake your hand, but they're looking, what are they doing? They're looking over your shoulder. Who's more important? Or in my case, it was always, hey, they're all excited. And then it's, so can you tell coach, I'm the transaction to get to the driver or coach. And over time, you just kind of go, man, do I have any worth myself?
Yeah.
And JD had this gift of every single person he would literally treat like a soul. I mean, this is a fearfully, wonderfully made human, and I'm going to treat the guy at the grocery store the same as I treat the CEO. And that's a gift, but that is something I think as leaders that is overlooked.
I absolutely love that. I'm taking notes, man, as we're going through on this, because that is absolutely, I mean, that shakes my thinking, quite honestly. I mean, because I am about relationships, but I have never, like, I've always thought, okay, treat him like a human, treat him like a person, but wow, to treat him like a soul. I mean, that's a level, again, that transcends what you're, why you're engaging, what you're doing. Like, you're right. The roles that we had in this sport was very much about access, because we had and some people thought we had influence.
We were gatekeepers, right? We might be gatekeepers.
We were gatekeepers in many ways, right? And you know when someone's coming up to you. There was always like the running joke. It's always the third thing when someone would come up. First, it's like, "Hey, how's it going?
Yeah.
Hey, tell me about your family." Number 3.
There you go. No, that's good.
By the way,
you're a transaction. Yeah, I need to get something from you. But what's incredible is, like, if we slowed down, like, every single person you're going to interact with today has a story, and you don't know what it is. And by the way, they're dealing with stuff. Many of them, if they had 5 minutes, it'd break your heart to tell them. And so when you gloss over that person, and I'm especially sensitive with younger people, just because I have boys that are young adults, and when I'm interacting at a race with the least senior people at the sponsors we deal with, I try to pay extra attention to them, because I know that's such an important time in their career where they want to be important. They want to have influence, and it's a big deal. Like, here's where my title does matter. Like, now people do care what I think. And I realize that if I blow somebody off, that's going to hurt their feelings. And on the flip side, me just saying, hey, that's awesome, you did a great job, means more now than it did when I was an intern. And I have to be aware of that. But I think it's just a good lesson for leaders. And no matter where you are in your career, just treating people like a soul, everyone. Look, selfishly, I think it's just good business doing that, because people want to do business with people they trust, people that aren't just in it for themselves. And I think when you treat your customers that way, and your sponsors or your partners or whatever, that comes back to you, because they're going to be loyal, and they're going to say, hey, these people care about me as a soul, I'm going to care about them.
That's right. I'm going to invest that back in. For sure.
No doubt.
And that builds reputation, it builds trust, it builds all the things as a leader that you're looking for, that helps then influence, like you mentioned earlier. I mean, it's also about
Coach has never pulled a contract out in 30 years. And he says, if we ever are pulling a contract out, we've failed. And so he's like, I don't care what it says in the contract. We're going to treat these people, we're going to go above and beyond, and we're going to do the right thing.
Yeah. No, I love that. It also speaks to being present and having a relationship that that's it. You shouldn't ever get to a place, quite honestly, if you have a strong relationship you've been nurturing and investing in, you've got trust, right? You've got openness. You should never have to pull a contract out to have to go point by point on
no doubt.
That right there should be, if anyone's listening or watching right now, when you are that, if you find yourself having to live by the deal point, maybe you need to take a step back and think about how you're approaching that relationship with that vendor, supplier, customer, client,
Right.
whoever it might be.
No doubt. It happens sometimes, but again, for us, again, we are in the relationship business, and that the idea is, and honestly, I feel like, I think I say this, I say this, and I occasionally give faith-based talks. And one of the things I talk about is that, to me, this is like my full-time ministry. I don't work for a church. I don't work, but the outpouring of my life is a ministry to the people around. And what am I communicating? Good, bad. You've heard the analogy before. I say this all the time. There's two types of people. There's fountains and there's drains. And the idea is that's a choice you make every day. You can either breathe life into every interaction, treating people like a soul, or you can suck the life out of every interaction, which looks like gossiping, complaining, arguing, all those things to say, it's a choice we make every day, being a fountain or a drain.
I love that analogy because it's so, man, the visual on it is so clear. It's so clear. Right. And again, these are all choices. As leaders, like every day we get up with the opportunity to make choices. So really it comes down to what choices do you want to make, right? To reflect your character, your authenticity, your leadership. Right. So man, as you're thinking about the schedule, right? And people sometimes don't realize when they talk about, I mean, the old joke is that, NASCAR is a family sport if you're on the other side of the grandstands, for those within it where you're there, 30 plus weekends out of your 52, you're 7 days a week. I mean, I know the sport's done a lot. You guys have done a lot to build more balance in with resources and things like that, which is great. Yet, man, it's still a machine, and it's brutal. I'm curious though, because there had been times when, and maybe it was you, maybe this was you, or maybe it was your team or department. But was there a time when you all were hitting a wall, and you took an approach, maybe you zigged where people thought you were going to zag. You have like a little, a different approach to a situation to help bring them back and center them, that helped really get the team back to a better place to perform?
Yeah. I mean, well, I have a thought on that one. I'm not sure. I think it goes, this is more of a, this probably is similar to my other answer in terms of making we kind of hit a wall as a team. And it goes back to the sport changing thing where we were 6 or 7 years into NASCAR. We were a one-car team. So people forget we're 8 teams. We have 4 in the Xfinity Series, 4 in the Cup Series. We're competing against ourselves. We have 500 people. But when I started, we had 15 people in one team. We had one driver. It was small. We thought that's how it was going to be forever. But we reached a point where we thought, we were doing, so you had one guy doing 15 different things in the building. Everyone was burnt out. And we were trying to compete with Hendrick and Penske and these huge teams that were just kicking our rear ends every week. And so there came a point where we had to make a pretty radical decision of, we need scale. We got to scale this. We got to add a team. And then eventually we added a third and a fourth. But adding that second team, similar to our Toyota decision, very controversial, very difficult. It's kind of like telling your only child you're going to have a brother, their first or sister, their first thought is, well, wait, I'm not going to get all the attention anymore. What about me? Because everyone cares only about how does this affect me. And so I think that was a seminal moment for Joe Gibbs Racing, was us, and the approach coach took to that, which was very unique at the time, where he basically said, I don't want an A team and a B team. I want 2 A teams. So I'm going to go to the current driver, who was Bobby Labonte, and the current crew chief, who was Jimmy Makar, and I'm going to let them pick the new people so that they can't come back to me in 2 years and go, I can't work with these people, because coach is going to go, well, you picked them. He set the team up. And as we grew in scale, all of a sudden, well, you don't need a second me or a second. And so now all of a sudden you had the scale to, People could take more breaks at work.
Yeah.
You had more input to make us better. Again, going back to our mission, we felt like the best way to go fast was to add scale and to add another driver. Now you got another driver in the room giving input, and another crew chief, and a third car and a fourth car. So I would say my first answer from a company standpoint, that when you ask about an unconventional approach or for us, that was it. Again, it was risky. It took a lot of effort. But I think, and what else was unconventional was this idea of 2 cars, 1 team, 3 cars, 1 team, meaning I'm going to give everyone a set. He gave teams bonuses based on how both teams worked. And at the time, nobody was doing that.
No. Wow.
I want everyone in the shop bought in that we are 1 team. And down on our shop floor to this day, we have a big sign that says 1 team. And even though on Sundays we may be racing against each other, we all have the same name on our shirt. Yeah. Joe Gibbs Racing. We're all 1 team. And that's very unconventional in the competitive environment that we work in. But all that to say, it's not easy. The 1 team concept is hard to achieve, and it's unconventional.
It is, and quite honestly, the other part of that you guys know very well is the financial economies of scale when you start to go that.
Well, that's it,
which is big. However, the people first and foremost, right? It's absolutely vital. Yet, man, some might say that's a big leap to go. Well, wait, what if we just hired a few more people and stayed with 1 team?
Now going back to, let's not lose sight of the mission was to go fast. So our first and foremost, we know we're not going to exist if we don't go fast. So this isn't happy fun time. This is pro sports. And as you know, I don't care what pro sport you're in. It's different. They're just the pace that pro sports go, and NASCAR's right up there because it's 38 weeks long, like you said. Yep. So look, it was predicated out of, we got to win, and this is going to help us win. But during the process, and again, what I wanted to add was, when you talk about unconventional, all along the way, we did things that I think were different. We have 3 full-time chaplains. We have a chapel service every week. We have we have resources that are available, going back to treating our people like souls and not transactions, putting people before profits, things that we said, look. And I think this people before profits is a selfish, self-fulfilling thing, because even though I talked about our mission, this mission of go fast is super important.
Yeah.
If the people in our building, if we treat them more importantly, if we put more value on them than on our mission, it makes them put more value on the mission, because the company has invested in me and cares about me. So yes. I think what Coach has modeled is, we care about our people. He tells people, when you come to work here, we want you to retire here. We're going to take care of your family. Yep. Again, we're going to take care of your soul with things that we're doing here. We're going to, there are a lot of touches, whether it's win lunches and just different things that we try to do to show our people, you're more than a transaction. You're more important than, profits here. And as a result, what you hope is that buys into this 1 team idea. And now everyone says, well, I want to go fast because I'm bought into what Coach is doing, and I want to win for the name on the shirt, not just my name. And so a lot of that is unconventional in business, where it's, especially pro sports, where it's so performance driven.
No, it is. And you just triggered a thought where you just said, people's mind says, I want to go fast, which was the, quite honestly, that was the origin story of Ricky Bobby. He said, as a young man, I want to go fast. Thank you, Coach.
Absolutely.
Who knew?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Oh, man.
But you can't just have the mission, by the way. You got to live it. Like, you can put a sign on the wall that says, hey, we're here to go fast. But if you make stupid decisions that everyone's like, well, that decision was clearly not made, people see through that in a second. So whatever your business is, if you're leading it, your mission has to be clear, and you have to live it out. And everyone in the building needs to know what their role is in that mission, by the way.
In that. Yeah, man, I absolutely could not agree more with that. When I speak with different CEOs and organizations, I love when I go into an office or a building and I see like the company values on the wall, right? Yeah. They have all these great values up there, and I'll make a point to ask them, and it's not in a gotcha kind of way, but it's more of a, I want you to think a little differently. And I'll say, those are fantastic values. Dave, can you tell me how you lived that one out today?
Yeah.
Can you tell me where
we have it on our wall. We have 1 team, and under it, we describe the culture at Joe Gibbs Racing as a three-legged stool, and the three values are on there.
Yep.
Honor God,
Mm-hmm.
put people before profits, and relentlessly pursue winning. And that's it. Are we doing that? And we believe it's in that order. Again, when you honor God, you put people first. The winning is usually a byproduct, in our opinion and of our experience.
Yeah.
It's easy as a pro sport to get hyper focused on the winning piece. I mean, it's just our human nature. And again, I go back to, if we don't win, we are out of business. We unlike other race teams, we don't have other businesses to fall back on. This has to work. We can't subsidize it. We don't have a fallback. We don't have a plan B. Yep. So we have to win. We have to go fast. We have to win.
And you know, what's great about that is that you all have been able to not just maintain, but thrive with that vision and approach to your mission, even during the tough times. Because I can tell you, and you've seen it. I don't know if you experienced it there, but I know I have, where as soon as the pressure of the competition gets to a certain level, and usually that's when it starts hitting the finances and sponsors are starting to question, hey, are we in the right place? Should we go somewhere else? The last thing that people are thinking about are the people. The last thing, like leadership, they're just thinking about how do you get the car to go faster. People, I'm not saying verbatim, but people be damned, we've got to get this car going faster on the track. So it's easier said than done. So, I mean, kudos to you all. I mean, look, it's in the DNA of the organization. There's no question about that, you know, but it's only because you all live it out on a regular basis that people believe in it. And from your office to the shop floor to the front office and the gift shop, I'm sure everyone is intentional.
I appreciate that. And it's, you know, again, it's a good analogy. It's really just a series of deposits and withdrawals. If you make enough deposits in your people, occasionally you're going to have to make a withdrawal. You're going to have to do some things. You may have to lay some people off. You may have to do some things that don't go over well, but you better have more deposits than you have withdrawals from things. That's right. And the deposits happen in little and big form every day in the way that, and again, it literally starts at the top. So the name on the sign, Joe Gibbs. If as leaders, your culture is a byproduct of the behavior of your leaders. So again, you can say whatever you want on the wall.
That's right.
It's how is the behavior of your leaders, and that spills down to the people under them and the people under them. Yep. And so again, it goes back to character and authenticity. And are you living out the ideals that you're talking about in whatever your business is?
Yeah.
And even if you're on the first rung and you're not leading anyone and you're sitting in a cubicle by yourself, again, be great at little things, attention to detail, be a fountain, all the things you can control. Eventually, when you're entrusted with more things, that'll be second nature to you.
Without a doubt. And I think in that perspective, even if you're starting out, be the leader of you, you know, be the leader that you'd want to have, you know, even if you've got that person, try to envision that for yourself, and how would that person show up and interact and act and do their job. You know, I love it, man. Dave, this has been an absolute masterclass in leadership, but doing it at the highest levels of competition, where it's easy to lose sight of the people when you're running after the checkers week in and week out, and the pressure and the stress of finding just like hundredths of seconds, micrometers worth of an advantage. I mean, it is a level of competition that few people understand and have experienced, but it's one that if a group like yours, a team like yours, under leadership like coaches and yours can thrive in, then I have to believe that every organization out there can take lessons from this. And man, I have a couple of notes and nuggets that I'm pulling here that I'm just going to keep to remind myself, but I want to share back. I think they're so powerful. You know, the first one is having that clarifying question. You know, what makes us go fast? Does this make us go fast? Like that, when you're answering any question for your business, is going to help really clear the clutter and make sure that alignment is where it needs to be on your mission, right? The idea of treating people as a soul and not a transaction, man, that one sits right in my heart. I think it's phenomenal, you know, and thank you for sharing that. And again, God bless JD. I mean, he was a beautiful, beautiful human. Fountain or drain, that's another great choice that we have every day. You want to be that fountain, or you want to be that drain? And listen, there are probably some days when we're a little of both, right? But we have the opportunity to be more of that fountain and pour in, you know?
No doubt.
And then the last one, the last nugget you dropped there, man, is, making more deposits than withdrawals. Again, we have opportunities to change the outcomes, to recognize that people are dealing with challenges. You mentioned before. I mean, look, everyone's dealing with something, some battle that we can't see, right? So how can we deposit into them on a regular basis? Man, I'll tell you, this has been a great conversation. Is there anything that you'd want to end with, or anything that we didn't cover that you wanted to kind of close out?
No. I mean, one of the thoughts that came in my head, and again, I talk about this in my book, but it's this idea, particularly younger people. It's good to know, like, another, just an unconventional trait of leadership is this idea of being a complement and not a clone. And I think often kids maybe they get out of college and they think, well, if I want to have that kind of job, or I have to be a corporate clone, I have to act a certain way, dress a certain way, be a certain way. Yeah. And I'm like, no, you don't. Like again, the example I made, me and Coach are polar opposites in terms of our style of leadership. We're very aligned in a lot of the way we see the world and things, but I'm just saying, and so I'm talking more about style, just right. I have a personality. He has a personality. You have a personality. Yeah. How did God wire you? Lean into that. Yes. Again, character and authenticity can be manifest no matter what your personality type is. Yeah. So be a complement in your business. Be a complement, not a clone. Give me any day a room full of complementary people, and not if I, so I'll leave you with this thought. We call them mannequin meetings here, and the idea is, if I want to sit in a room and have everybody nod their head and agree with me, I'll let us all save our time, and I'll put 8 mannequins in the room, and I'll just talk to them. I love it. I want your opinion. I want your different wiring to complement what I'm seeing this one way. You may have a different way. And so don't be afraid as a leader to be a complement to the group you're in, not a clone of the group that you're in. Don't feel like you got to fall into that trap. Yeah, I love that curiosity, right? And inclusion. I love that. Hey, speaking of your book, where can we get your book? Yeah, no, it's Taking the Lead. There you go. It's pop it up there. Winning Principles That Fuel Joe Gibbs Racing. You can pick it up on Amazon or anywhere. I can shamelessly plug it because all the proceeds, 100% of them get donated to charity for the J.D. Gibbs Legacy Fund that honors my best buddy JD, and that money is helping fund urban ministry here in Charlotte, North Carolina. But that's great. Principles book. As a fellow author, you get it. If you haven't heard enough of me, you can listen to me 5 hours as I read the audiobook for that. So if you go on Audible, you can listen to me talk. So we've got that as well. We got that as well, which is awesome. You've also starting to get a good TikTok following too, I see on there. So you're out there. You can follow me on TikTok, Race Car Biz. I answer fans' questions about the business side of NASCAR. I enjoy doing that. I love it, man. And you're so good at it. There are fewer out there well qualified. And just, again, genuine, great humans. Dave, thank you so much for your time today, brother. For those of you who have listened along, I hope you've taken notes. Please drop your thoughts down below in the comments. We'd love to hear it. Only the good ones. Only. No, I'm kidding. Well, we can delete the bad ones. Even if they're negative, that's fine. No. Well, listen, y'all, until we meet again on the next episode, thank you so much. And remember, your best is yet to come.